Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence at St. Leo University. We'll be recording this webinar. Hold on a second. There we go. We'll be recording this webinar. So if you'd like to view it later or recommend it to a colleague, you'll find it on our webinar page of our CTLE website or on our YouTube channel. We'll drop those links to those the website and the YouTube channel into the chat at the end of the session today. I'm Dr. Candace Roberts. I'm the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence, and our topic for today is artificial intelligence and writing in the workplace. I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Karina Zelaya. She is a graduate of our Master's in Creative Writing program. She's a native of South Florida, born and raised in Boca Raton, and she earned a bachelor's degree in telecommunications and film from the University of West Florida, and went to worked in network operations, master control for television broadcasting before finding her true love in storytelling. When she left her position in television, enrolled in St. Leo's Creative Writing Master's Program and started copywriting professionally. Today, she's working for a digital marketing agency called Digital Resource, where she is the manager of their SEO content marketing team, consisting of 22 SEO and content writers. Outside of television and digital marketing, she's worked in novel promotions, journalism, and graphic design. And Karina, we are thrilled to have you with us today to share with us some of the things that are going on out in the real world with writing and AI. So please take it away.
Hi, everybody. I want to start off by apologizing for being a little bit late. I had this written down starting at 3, so I actually was preparing, so I apologize, but I'm here now and we'll get started. So like she said, my name is Karina Zelaya. I grew up in Boca Raton, Florida, South Florida, and I went away to school in Pensacola, Florida after graduating high school, stayed there for 4 years, came back, worked in television for a while, realized that the technical aspect of television is not what I fell in love with. I wanted to create the concepts that were there. I wanted to tell stories that everyone had a medium to understand. And so I decided to leave television and all the technical world and time codes and stamps and enroll in creative writing. And then I became a copywriter professionally, and this is where we are today. The team that I currently lead is an SEO content marketing team. How many people here know what SEO is? Does anybody here have an idea? Okay, cool. So SEO is search engine optimization. Basically, we take your website and we add certain terms, certain technical aspects to it. We write a bunch of blogs and a bunch of very pointed content, throw it on your website with the goal that search engines like Google and Bing will see your website and put it higher on the results for certain search terms that you want to be known for. So my team does that, but the part that we're going to focus a little bit more on today is actually the content marketing side of things. I got into content marketing way before I got into SEO, and it is definitely a place where my true love lies. My team writes long form content, so that is blogs, website copy, email marketing, press releases, anything over like 500 words. That's where we are. I also am one of the few people in my marketing company who I do not hire marketers. I hire writers and then teach them the marketing. It takes a very special person to sit down for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and do absolutely nothing but write. And so I found people who absolutely loved writing. They have manuscripts in play and stuff. And I said, if you are willing to write all day, every day, I will teach you marketing and you'll get a good salary for it. And they said, all right, sounds like a dream. Okay, let's do it. So you can imagine that when AI kind of entered the space, I was working with people who got degrees in English and journalism and creative writing. And now suddenly this platform came on and everybody was saying this was going to cut writing teams in half. Everybody was saying that this platform was going to take over this space. And it was my job to test this platform and really find its intricacies, find its strengths and its cons, and then tell writers to use it without scaring them. And we are doing really well right now. We are actually about to up the charge of our writing, and we won 3 awards at the end of last year for our content marketing. So we've done a pretty good job doing it, and I hope that at the end of this presentation, you guys are going to understand AI a little bit better, and you'll understand how to use it efficiently, so that when you go and work with your students who are probably going to use this for some of their assignments, you understand how they're doing it, and you can look for you can look for patterns in what they're doing. You can pick it up, and you can teach directly to what they are probably going to be doing in their workflow. Okay, so we'll start out with talking about some of the platforms that, oh, actually, let me share my screen real quick and I'll share my presentation. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so everybody see my presentation? All right, cool. So we're going to talk about AI writing in the workplace. This is part 1. We'll be talking about actually bringing it into the classroom in a few weeks, okay? So first, we're going to start with talking about some of the most popular platforms. These are names that you guys are probably going to hear more than anything else. Jasper, that has been around the longest. When people talk about AI, they think it just came onto the playing field last year. I have been using Jasper for over 2 years. And it was actually called Jarvis. I was part of the beta test for this program. And it is a writing generator, just like all of these other ones. You log in, it gives you templates. You can choose if you want to do an introduction, you want to write an introduction, if you wanted to brainstorm topics, if you wanted to write an outline, all these kinds of things. You can give it certain tones. The issue with Jasper was that the writing was not fluent. It sounded incredibly robotic. The grammar was all wrong, and it was super repetitive. There was absolutely no depth to it. So, but that was definitely the playing field. That was the starting ground for what we see now, which is Copy.ai and WriteSonic. Copy.ai and WriteSonic are very similar to Jasper. You log in, there are a bunch of templates everywhere, and you choose what template you want the program to write. So you can't, it's not just like an ask, question, and answer sort of forum. You actually have to pick your template for the formatting. And then WriteSonic is doing something that's really unique, is they are actually allowing you to create your own custom chatbot. So this is something that I am using right now. I am the SEO manager. SEO is a very difficult field to understand. So I'm actually creating a SEO master chatbot that everybody in the company can just ask whatever SEO question they want, and it will give them an answer without me having to get pulled away from what I'm doing. So they're doing something unique. It's a really cool system. And then the two that you're probably hearing the most about is ChatGPT and Bard. Those are definitely the ones that are used more than anything else. They both have their strengths to it. They both have their weaknesses. They can be used for really anything. It's so easy to use, but they definitely both have their weaknesses. But those are the two that we are going to focus on today. So now let's move forward and see what AI actually is and how it is. How does it work and what is it? Okay, so systems like ChatGPT and Bard are large language models. Basically means that they're trained based off of a massive data set of text. Especially ChatGPT, it is not connected to the internet. So it cannot see everything coming in all the time. It actually only has information up to about 2011, or sorry, not 2011, 2021. So what the creators did was they took a massive amount of information that they thought would give it a complete picture of the internet, and they stopped at 2021 because that's what they could get their hands off of, downloaded it all into this program, and that's what we have today. So if you ask ChatGPT, like, who won the Olympics in 2021 or 2022, whatever it was, it can't tell you. And it'll actually tell you that its information cuts off at 2021, so it is not able to answer that question. So those what these systems are. They are large language, massive data dump. And then they're trained using a technique called deep learning. Deep learning allows them to learn patterns, right? That's why if you ask it to incorporate like something like an Oxford comma into your papers, it's probably going to get it wrong 50% of the time in its output, because there's so much conflicting information on the internet, whether it's right or wrong. And as we're seeing, these data models only use patterns. They pick up on patterns and they regurgitate patterns. So if something like the Oxford comma has so many conflicting patterns all over the internet, it's not really going to know what to pick up. So it's probably going to get it wrong 50% of the time. But that's how these things are learned and trained. One thing that I wanted to touch on too was the ethics before we actually get into using the system. These systems are they're very controversial. People have this big ethical dilemma using these systems, and to an extent, they're founded. But the one thing I want to get across, if nothing else today, is that these systems should not be trusted to be published or submitted on their own. You will always need human intervention. You will always need an editor, and you will always need a fact checker, no matter what you are generating. Nothing generated on these platforms should give you the confidence to submit it straight to a publisher or write to a journal or write to the courts. No, there have been way too many legal problems that have arisen using these programs. You should not have the confidence to submit these without editing or fact checking. Okay. These tools are meant as tools, not a replacement for human effort. They're not there yet. Maybe they'll be there in 20 years. But like I said, for the last 2 years, I got from Jasper to this, and it's okay, you know? But these should never be used on their own. You should always have human intervention. And now let's talk about some of the risks. So legalities of using these. There's a reason why I'm talking about all of this before we actually go into using it. I just kind of want to give you a well-rounded idea about why people are using it before we actually use it. I want you to understand like, why I'm walking you through all this. So there have been about 15 lawsuits opened against OpenAI since ChatGPT was released. And most of it is because people who publish novels, people who have published poems or other information, they're upset that ChatGPT or OpenAI's owners are using their information to train this chatbot. And so that the chatbot can give you the information on this stuff. These are the 4 that are open right now. For the most part, they have been closed out. There's a couple of them that have been founded. And so ChatGPT actually looks a lot different now than it did when it opened in 2022. But these are the 4 that are still open. Copyright infringement. California law firm filed a class action lawsuit against OpenAI, alleging that the company violated copyrights for millions of internet users. And that's actually probably the biggest lawsuit area that has been opened. Very famous people like Sarah Silverman and a bunch of comedians and notable figures have opened the same exact lawsuit, saying that they should not have used their stuff to train ChatGPT. Bias and discrimination. In 2022, a radio host in Georgia filed a defamation lawsuit against OpenAI, alleging that ChatGPT was used to generate text that falsely accused him of embezzlement. So now he's actually being looked into for embezzlement because somebody that he worked with was doing research on him. ChatGPT said that he had embezzled money from a company that was for like gun violence and stuff. They said that he had embezzled money from them, and then that coworker reported him. And now he's being looked into. Of course, nothing is founded yet. They're going back and forth. He's innocent until proven guilty, but it could cause a lot of problems. And we're seeing this with actors and the writers too, right? It's giving out false information. And in 2023 or in July of this year, a New York lawyer decided to go into court using only information they used on ChatGPT and cited a bunch of fake legal cases that ChatGPT decided to just make up and give him. That's a problem. That is a big problem. And so we need fact checkers in the world. ChatGPT cannot be trusted for stuff like this, especially legal documents that, I mean, HIPAA laws are still in place, right? There's a bunch of laws that are supposed to prevent this kind of this security leak, and ChatGPT finds a way to go around some of them. So you should never trust them. You should never trust it. You should always fact check. It should be a tool to make things sound better and not necessarily for research purposes. And then the last one that's open right now, class action lawsuit was filed in California alleging that OpenAI violated the California Consumer Privacy Act. Again, that's the same reason why you have to click yes. You can grab my cookies from my computer for advertising and stuff like that. They're just saying that they're not going through the correct precautions that they're supposed to be on the internet. So a lot of different issues here. So there's definitely risks involved, but that's why it's so important to use this as a tool and not something to lean on. industry wide. People are using it for a lot of different purposes. But they got to be careful. It's not something to lean on. All right, now let's talk about what those industries are using it for, right? These are some of the most common industry uses. Content and copywriting. It's what I do, right? Sales scripts. This is a great training tool. If you have a bunch of scripts that from calls that you've taken, you transcribe them, you put them into ChatGPT and you say, hey, can you turn this into a script for some of my sales trainees? And now these people, when they're on the phone calling prospective clients, they have something to follow. And it took you all of like less than 10 minutes to create this script for them, right? Or you can even say, hey, can you create some like mock questions based off of this script that I'm about to give you? It can be a training tool that way. But again, like I said before, you're giving it the information and asking you to do something with it. You're not asking it to do research for you, right? But sales scripts, really popular. Email correspondence. So many people in my company have come to me and say, hey, I know you're the writing person. Help me write this email. I've told this client a million times no, and they're not listening. How do I say this nicely? And I say, well, who's a famous person that you respect? They'll say a name. I'll ask ChatGPT, take like an article that they've written on the internet, throw it in ChatGPT and say, hey, rewrite this email using the tone of so-and-so. And now they have a professionally written email. Not saying that, you should use the voice of other people too often or try to publish with it. But in something like this, email correspondence, where you do want to sound professional and like you know what you're doing in your field, using other public note or using public figures for reference is really strong. So a lot of people use it for email correspondence. Customer service. How many people here have entered a website and seen that little chat bot that ends up at the bottom of the screen and it says like, hi, how may I help you today? It's like a live chat system. You can connect that now with ChatGPT so that someone doesn't have to sit at the computer all day long and respond to these people. ChatGPT knows how to respond, knows how to have a conversation with them, knows how to get them to the pages that they're looking for, knows how to give them the forms. You train your ChatGPT bot and connect it to these live chat forms. And it saves you a little bit of time. You don't have to be sitting there watching this chat for hours waiting for somebody to enter your website and ask a question. Research and development. Again, that is not a ChatGPT one, but Bard, you can probably get away with it because unlike ChatGPT, Bard is connected to the internet. It is created by Google. So Google has millions of data points all over the internet. Obviously, Google is like our main space for research. So if you use Bard for research and development, you probably can trust a lot of the information it gives you. The writing is not there. The voice is definitely not strong, and the platform is still beta testing. But the research is there, and it's very strong. Expectations. These are some of the things that I heard from so many people when this first came on the market. Obviously, Jasper came on the market, and I'm a writer myself, so I'm just like, it's not ready yet. We can't use this yet. It's not for us. We need people. And then ChatGPT came on the platform, and I kind of couldn't fight it anymore because people had a lot of really good evidence that it could construct a good sentence. So these are the kinds of the things that I heard. It's able to generate high quality content. Maybe if you don't want evidence, or if you're asking it to reword something that you already wrote, then sure, you can generate high quality content. It understands all my instructions. Oh my goodness, it does not. I have asked it to write me so many things that it gives me nothing. You ask it to write you a blog, it doesn't even know what kind of voice to write. You ask it to give you a poem about something, it gives you some like random limerick that's like humorous that it doesn't even fit the qualifications that you wanted. And so it does not understand all your instructions, which is why I keep using the phrase, you need to train your chatbot. You need to train it to understand what you actually want it to do, because it's not going to understand your instructions up front. It's not as easy as, actually, here's a good example. Somebody in my company, they were dealing with an upset client. So they said, you know what, we'll give you 5,000 words in blogging for the next 3 months. No problem. And they came to me and they said, hey, only use ChatGPT for this. We're not going to waste time. Don't write it. Just generate it and get it up on the website. You know how long it took me to write that first 5,000 word blog? It took me so long. And it's because ChatGPT cannot generate quality content past about 400 words or 500 words. So what I was doing was Frankensteining this blog together. I was creating about 12 different blogs and putting it in between, creating transitional sentences so that it all flowed together, making sure that the voice connected, and made sure that all of these different blogs that I was putting together, it made sure that it all connected back to the same point of the whole article. And that's because it couldn't do what I asked it to do. So that's a bunch of baloney. It doesn't always understand your instructions. It saves me loads of time. It saves you loads of time after you know how to use it and after you have a concrete system. I'll say that. Generate content in any format that I want. No, it doesn't. If I ask it to give me a blog, it will give me a giant paragraph of text. It will not have different paragraphs. It will not have different paragraphs. It won't have titles, right? Between paragraphs. No thesis statement. I don't even think ChatGPT knows what a thesis statement is. It does not give it to you in the format that you want half the time. Generate creative content that I don't need to fact check. Again, fact checking, woof. And then creative content means that it's unique, means that it's fun, means that people want to read it. My team writes 500 blogs every single month. And I am pretty sure that 450 of those introductory set paragraphs are almost exactly the same, or paraphrased versions of each other. And the topics it asks you to brainstorm, you brainstorm like 2 or 3 times. It's going to be really cool and you're going to be impressed, which is why these business owners are saying, wow, this is a really cool tool. You can definitely use it. Look, I brainstormed this and it sounded great. Try doing that 500 times every single month of the year. It's going to get kind of boring and repetitive. So it really can generate that creative content. So all of these should definitely have little asterisks next to them because they can be true, but a lot of the time you need to find a way to get there before it's actually true. You do it once, it's fine. You do it twice, it's fine. You do it 500 times, not that fine. Okay. Everybody with me so far? I know I'm kind of booking it. We're good? All right, so now we're going to talk about the risk of ignoring AI, right? We talked about the legalities and the ethics. We talked about what people are actually using it for and kind of the myths surrounding it. Now let's talk about what happens if you just don't use it. If you say the risks are too great, I don't want to get into any legal trouble if I start generating stuff and then somebody catches me, copyright infringement, all of this stuff. There's a lot of really big risks with not using it. First off, loss of control. People lose control of things that they don't know how to control. So if you don't learn ChatGPT, if you don't learn Bard, if you don't start using these systems, in the future, you're not going to be able to use them to your advantage and you're going to have employment difficulty. I have put out probably like 7 different hiring listings since ChatGPT came out. And I will give my hiring manager a listing. And when I see it online, they have added the line, knows or is interested in developing AI. Because every employer wants to know how to save money. They want to know how to save time. They want to know how to use this system that all of their competitors are using. Right now, our base SEO package comes with 500 blogging words every month. And we're about to raise that because Joe Blow down the street is offering 2,000 words a month with their minimum blogging package or their minimum SEO package. And it's because they're generating with everything with AI. And you can say ours are higher quality. You can say that we have way better blogging and way better copywriting than the guy next door. But people don't know that. When you own a business, especially now in this economy, you're looking for the best bang for your buck. And if they can get you through the door with that, then they can work with you on giving you a product that you want. So why wouldn't they go with the other company? So you need to start adapting this so that you can be a little bit more competitive and you can just make it worthwhile for your space. Retention, right? Keep people interested. Also, like a bunch of business owners right now, they're just intrigued by AI. And they like AI. So they want to know that we're using the latest and greatest tools. So a lot of times we say that we're using AI and they're like, oh, how are you using it? they're not thinking about the quality in that minute. They're thinking, oh, so you guys are using all, okay, so am I going to get original images that nobody else has seen before, nobody else can take? Am I going to start, and they're excited by it. And then quality loss versus competition, right? If you don't use it now and you try to rush to use it later, you're going to give this product that's really not that high of quality just to try and beat out the competition. And this platform is not going to get any less intensive. If anything, it's going to get smarter and smarter and smarter over time. So you want to use it now while it's starting, while it's changing, while the lawsuits are opening up and it's altering its parameters to fit certain legal systems and stuff. So that later on, when things do get super competitive, like even more competitive than they are now, you already have a good ground to stand on. So you really want to use it now while you still have time to learn it. Okay. Now let's talk about some practical with it. Okay, so I'm already sharing my screen, and we are actually going to go into ChatGPT and use some of these systems. Okay. Before I do that, does anybody have questions so far? All right, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. Let me go ahead and, okay, we're gonna exit full screen. We're gonna come over here. And I believe I need to stop sharing my screen and then reshare it. All right, so you guys can all see my ChatGPT screen, right? Okay, so welcome to ChatGPT. This might look a little bit different than yours does because I have the pro version. Like I said, I play with it all the time and I need to stay up to date. So I have the pro version. When you log in, you're going to see this 3.5. This is the normal free version. If you do not pay for it, this is what you're going to get stuck with, but not stuck with. It's still a good system. But that is what you're going to be using all the time. Then if you actually pay for the plus, you're going to have access to this, ChatGPT 4. This has access to different plugins. You can upload PDFs in here. You can ask it to crawl certain websites on the spot. You can ask it to look at images. Your whole experience can get opened up. However, we're going to stick in 3.5 for now because a majority of people who are going to college are probably just going to be okay with the free version. And I want to actually show you what it looks like. So we're going to start over here. Now, the first thing you want to do when you want to actually get a good output with this system is you want to train it in tiny little chunks, okay? So if I say, write a blog about dental hygiene, or actually not even that. Let's say write a paragraph about dental hygiene. Oof, my typing isn't great today. But dental hygiene. It's going to give you this, right? Dental hygiene is a critical aspect of overall health and well-being. It encompasses a range of practices and habits, regular brushing, flossing. These practices help remove plaque. Pretty standard stuff, right? But if I were to ask ChatGPT, we'll start a new chat, and I say, hey, ChatGPT, always be nice to your boss. You don't know where they're going to be in 50 years. Hey, ChatGPT, how are you? Will you please tell me the difference between content and copy? All right, now it knows the difference between content writing and copywriting. Copywriting is for promotional purposes. Content writing is for educational purposes. Now it knows. Now you say, will you please sell me a dental hygiene service using content? Woof, that's a lot. All right, now let's back it up a little bit. Hold on. Will you please write me 2 versions of a dental hygiene service paragraph using content and copy. There we go. Okay, now you see how different that tone is? If I just asked it to give me a paragraph, it was pretty cut and dry. It was very much, where is it? Load. Okay, it was very much, it's a critical aspect. This is what it is. It ensures a bright and confident smile, end of story. You come over here. Now, if I'm writing this for a website, I want good copy. So if I wouldn't have asked it to define content and copy for me, probably wouldn't have given me this beautiful paragraph of unlock the secret to a dazzling confident smile with a premium dental hygiene service. Say goodbye to plaques, stains, and dental woes as our expert dental hygienists work their magic. Our goal? Your impeccable oral health. With precision and care, will banish those pesky dental problems, leaving you with a smile that turns heads. Don't miss out on this chance to transform your oral health and boost your confidence. That sounds so much more, so much more like something you would read on a website. That's something you would want to buy from versus the content style that's, are you concerned with whatever? But this generic paragraph, if you just ask it to write you a paragraph, it's going to be very cut and dry, and there's going to be very little voice to it. But you ask it what you want, right? So now from here, let's expand a little bit, okay? Let's open a new chat and say, write me a 500-word blog about pens. Now, this is what I want to show you guys. Let's say this is not 500 words. Let's say this is like probably 300 words-ish, basic Word document. What it does sometimes is it'll stop mid-sentence, and then you have to say, continue. Keep going. It'll go, and it'll go, and it'll go. If we were to read this, this is an exact paraphrasing of what it already wrote. So when you ask it to continue, all it's going to do is continue based, or it's going to give you more content, but it's not going to give you more quality content. It's going to give you content that reiterates what it's already told you. Sometimes it'll even give you more to the conclusion. So actually, I'm curious. I wonder what we'll say if write more. Okay, now let's look at some of these titles. So, A Brief History, A World of Variety, The Joy of Writing, okay. Pen's Role in the Digital Age, Personal Expressions, Gifts, Tools of Creativity and Productivity, Pens as Educational Tools. It's sort of just kind of giving you a little bit of nothing. Sure, this might be good if you're reading it, but when you're trying to put together a cohesive blog or cohesive article, you're going to find that a lot of the stuff is very repetitive. It's not going to continue on the way you want it to continue on. Okay. Now, something else that I want to talk about is this over here. This is your dashboard. This is your menu over here. Okay. What a lot of us do is, or at least what we do in the office, is we will rename our chats so that we are continue training our chatbot over months and months and months. So let's say Pens, I am working for BIC, and this is the first thing I've generated for them. I'm going to rename this BIC. Now, this is going to stay here. So for the next 6 months, a year, however long I am writing for this company, I can continue writing in this chat and it will save the knowledge that we have generated up to this point. And so you can train it over time, and every time you generate information, it's going to get better and better and better because it's going to have more information. Again, patterns, right? Based off of this, this is just stuff that it gathered from 3 years ago. But if you're actually having all of this information, and maybe over time you say, you give it more information and say, you know, reword this, and you find information yourself and put it in here, right? Or you can say, use this information and make a blog out of it, and it'll use that information. And now it's just building up patterns, and it's learning you and the way you want things written. Another thing that we do is we will save templates. So let's say, write a 500-word blog, use 3 H2s, 4 H3s per H2, include an introduction, conclusion, and 2 statistics. Which statistics is probably a bad one to ask it for, because like we know, it's all going to be outdated anyway. But all right, now I'm going to say, save this as standard blog format every time I ask you to write something in standard blog format. You should remember these instructions. So now I can say, use standard blogging format to write about sneakers. And there we go. But I actually already saw an issue here. I asked it to use, where is it? I asked it to use 3 H3s per H2. So does everybody here know what I mean when I say H2 and H3s? It's a header hierarchy. So when you read something, the H1 is like the big title at the top. H2 is like a slightly smaller title, and H3s, it just keeps nesting itself in there. So I was asking it, this is the H1, under every H2, we need 3 H3s. It didn't do it. It didn't understand my instructions. So this is a prime example of it not understanding my instructions. So, and I asked it to save to standard blogging format. And here it got it even worse. There's only 1 H3 under every H2. So now let me go ahead and correct it. I asked to use standard blog format, but these only have 1 H3 under each H2. Please revise. And now it's just confused. The H3 comes right on top of the H2. So there's no information under the next header. And it looks like that's the theme. They have an H1, an H2, and then, oh my gosh, they messed up. Yeah, so this is the H1, this is the title, and then they put a subtitle right underneath the main title. And these H2s, that only has 1 H3, has 2 H3s, but this one has no content underneath it. And again, no content underneath it. It's just a title. So yeah, doesn't always understand instructions very well. You have to kind of like jiggy this together and edit it together to get what you actually want. The good thing is some of this might be usable, but you'll have to edit it. You'll have to be careful with it. You'll have to make fact check it and everything, especially because I asked it to use statistics and I don't see a statistic in here. Oh, no, here it is. Here's a statistic and here's a statistic. Even if it's a Kanye West statistic, it's a statistic. Yeah, so it got the formatting wrong. It couldn't do the format I asked it to. It got it wrong twice. And then when I asked it to revise, it got it wrong again. It did not understand what I wanted it to do. Okay. What is something else? Let's actually keep on going with this one for a little bit and see what we can find. So, so we have content versus copy, dental hygiene. Now let's say, okay, we want to turn the copy into a full service page. So like on a website, you have the service drop down, you have all the service pages, into a full service page. Give me an outline for what that page could look like. Okay, now it gives you the outline. And let's say, I don't really want to focus on hygienists, just the hygiene. Please don't focus. Whoop. And it gives you a whole new outline. Okay. Now from here, you can ask it to write that page, right? And you can edit it as you would like to, see additional elements and stuff. And you can ask it to continue to expand as much as you would like to and alter it. But like I said, it doesn't always understand everything. So you are probably going to have to alter it. I'm also almost sure that this first introduction will be something that I have read a million times before. So it's going to be a little bit repetitive, so be careful. Now we are coming close to the time, so I'm going to jump over to ChatGPT 4 real quick and show you plugins. If somebody does have the paid version of this, they can use plugins. And these plugins, I have like a browser, an internet browser, web requests, a web pilot. Basically just means that if I put a link in here, it's going to read it. So if I put, please summarize the content on, I'll use my company's name, my company's URL, humanresource.com. Should start soon. ChatGPT was down this morning too. It goes down a lot. There we go. Using Web Pilot, it's going to analyze that URL and it's going to give me a summary. And there's new plugins coming on the market all the time. People are creating them always. There we go. No, we don't need this. We can stop generating. So that's one of the big perks of ChatGPT 4. If you're not going to use plugins, you really don't need it. You can use 3. The content is also a tiny bit cleaner as far as grammatical and like sentence structure and stuff on ChatGPT 4. But 3.5 is perfectly okay. The big thing with 3 is just you need to work your way up to bigger concepts and different formats so that I can learn with you and you can train it. Okay. All right, cool. So now I'm going to jump out of ChatGPT. We're going to go to Bard for a second. Bard, like I said, is connected to the internet. So actually, let's do this. ChatGPT. Who won the 2022? Actually, when was the last election? Was it 2021? Let's see. ChatGPT. Who won or who was president in 2022? Oh, I've actually never done this before. I didn't know ChatGPT would find the answers. Okay, hold on. Let's go to number 3.5. Okay. Who was president in 2022? I actually am curious if it found it here, though. You might find it. Now I'm just playing. Let's see, where is it? Well, my point is that I was going to say, I have a language cutoff from 2021 and I can't give you this answer. But if you come over to Bard and say, who was president in 2022. It'll give you the answer right away because it's connected to the internet and it's saying things all the time. One of the downsides of Bard is that if you ask it to write you a blog, it's not going to be a very good blog. The language is going to be very choppy, very straightforward. It's going to be very robotic. And also these chats don't always save very well. So you can't really trust to go back into your history. But the good thing about Bard is that it doesn't need you to log into anything. You can just go on any system you have, your phone, your computer, tablet, and it will always just bring you straight to the chatbot. So that's always nice. I have used Bard before to fact check if it's a very long blog. I will read through it and pick out whatever I can pick out, and then I'll ask it to do one more scope over it. And then you can even ask it for resources. Where did you find this information? Yep, and there you go. You can see actually the places where it found this kind of stuff, which is good. Another cool thing about Bard is right here, other drafts. This is what kind of scares me about Bard too, is that sometimes it'll give you all of the drafts it generated but didn't give you. So you can go through some of these and read them, and sometimes they're very different. This one, I mean, I asked it a very simple fact: who was president last year? But sometimes if you ask it for statistics, or you ask it how much revenue did this company get this year, or something like that, a general but a little bit more difficult question, it will give you multiple different drafts in here. So if you're ever curious, like that's weird, I didn't think it was going to give me that, you can look at the drafts and see if it may have given you different information in the drafts that it generated. So that's a really cool thing about Bard, but it's also kind of scary, and it can kind of tell you if this information is trustworthy or not, because if it has 3 different drafts and all 3 of them give you different information, you should probably fact check yourself. Okay. That is Bard or ChatGPT. Does anybody have any? Actually, we're kind of getting close to time, so I'm going to jump back to the presentation, and we are going to finish this off, and then I'll ask for questions. Okay. So output limitations. There's a lot of output limitations. One, repetitiveness. Introductions and conclusions are almost one of only about few different outputs every single time. Inaccuracies, data cut off from 2021, ChatGPT, unless you're using 4, right? But I'm going to assume most students are not buying ChatGPT, but if they are, then they might have a little bit more to work with. Very little evidence. A lot of things, especially long form content on ChatGPT, it will not give you reasoning. It'll have top level sentence saying, this is this, this is that, this is this because of this, this is this and this, but it will not give you in-depth evidence. And that's a problem most of the time, especially for research papers. Generic outputs due to limitations added to the program after people misused it. When ChatGPT first came on the playing field, people were asking it to like help them create bombs and helping how do I escape this country, right? And they were asking these crazy questions that, were they fooling around? Maybe, but we don't know this. So a lot of people, ChatGPT got in a lot of trouble for a lot of the questions it was being asked and a lot of the social media things that were being posted. And so they had to bring the limitations down. So what we originally saw as ChatGPT is not the same output you're going to get now. Right now, you're going to get much more generic output because it was misused so much in the past. When asking for specific poetry formulas, the program tends to clutter with slant rhymes. Yeah, it doesn't actually give you very good rhymes. It's all going to be like, slant rhymes, the words that like are sort of rhyme, but like they don't actually rhyme. I have found that whenever I generate poetry, that is what I get on almost every line. They're slant rhymes. And the longer the writing, the more grammatical comprehension errors, like I said, with what's it called? Oxford commas, gerunds, right? It'll get things wrong, or it'll try to make things more wordy for certain reasons to like reach the word count that you want. And it's not quality the longer that you write. And often it will not add a thesis statement. Like I said earlier, it's like it doesn't know what a thesis statement is. It goes straight into the subject, which plays into this. So spotting ChatGPT content almost every time. Determine if the piece is long or short form. And if it's long form, look for generic intro paragraphs that break the fourth wall. Very often these intro paragraphs will say, dental hygiene is extremely important for these reasons. Now, in this article, we're going to tell you how dental hygiene can change your life. It will completely break that wall. And that is one thing that, at least in marketing, is a big no-no. We stay far away from that. We do not want to acknowledge that you are reading something because it just is sloppy and it's a little lazy. But this program will consistently break that fourth wall. Intro paragraphs that jump right into one point without stating the goal, right? No thesis. It will jump right into reason one why dental hygiene is good. It will not give you a good comprehensive overview. Conclusion paragraphs will start with a transitional phrase. In conclusion, overall, therefore, it will start with all of these transitional phrases that, it sounds sloppy. Again, it sounds like somebody who is writing a 5-paragraph essay for the very first time, and they're starting the conclusion with in conclusion, because that is the easiest way to start a conclusion. But yeah, conclusions will almost every time start with transitional phrases. Conclusion paragraphs that have the same sentence paraphrased over and over again. This is what in conclusion, dental hygiene is good for you. Dental hygiene can keep your mouth sparkly and shiny. And with that beautiful smile, you'll know that your teeth are happy and healthy. I said the same thing 3 different times. It is the same sentence, just paraphrased over and over again. And then very little evidence or depth. Like I said, you got to be careful with the statistics and the depth it gives you. So honestly, I wouldn't use this for research or research papers. But in general, if somebody is trying to write something, it gives very, very little evidence. So if you notice that, like, for 3 paragraphs, everything's a top level sentence, I can almost guarantee it was written by ChatGPT. Almost guarantee. And all of these things, like I said, I've been able to pick out AI writing pretty good. Whenever one of my writers decides to submit something, I'm like, guys, come on, it would have taken you all of 15 minutes to edit this. And they're like, oh, you're right, it was an off day. And I catch them, right? And it's all because things are just very top level overview, or my goodness, stop breaking that fourth wall and just put a better sentence there. But almost every time you can spot AI writing with these. Okay. And then just how to strengthen the output, break down instructions into smaller steps, right? Don't write me a paragraph and say, what is content versus copy? Can you give me 2 different renditions of this in content and copy? Okay, now write me a page of copy once you actually know that it knows what you want it to do, right? Label your chatbots, right? Like I said, you can build the training over time. If you're using these chatbots efficiently, you can label them and keep them so you can go back to them really easily. Define your tone and give it example writing to train it. If I want to sound like Michelle Obama, find an article she's written, throw it in there and say, hey, write this email in Michelle Obama's voice. And it does it really well. Michelle Obama's voice is one of the most accurate I have found. And Angelina Jolie is really good too. Ryan Reynolds is really good because it's so, like, specific. Tony Stark, I know it's fictional, but his is, like, really spot on every time. Label your chats and build training over time for specific chat topics, what I was just talking about. If you're working on any form of branding, ask it to use the voice of a public figure, like I just said. Use it to use that voice, and it'll get it every time. That's one of the easiest ways for me to get clients to describe tone. A lot of times they'll all say happy but professional, inviting but professional. But if I say, whose voice do you think it emulates? If they say Oprah, I'm like, I got you. All right, now we're telling the chatbot, do you know what Oprah sounds like? Here's an article by her. Okay, now we want to generate this blog in this voice. Go. And it can work a lot better. Save templates. Like I said, this is the standard blogging template. Every time I ask you to write something in the standard blogging template, this is what it should look like, right? And sometimes it'll get it wrong, but it'll get you in the ballpark so you can edit it later. And then use technical terms for your industry to tell ChatGPT exactly what you want it to do. And don't be afraid to get specific. Typo there, I know, I'll fix it. But use technical terms. Use the H2 and H3, right? Ask it to use the Oxford comma. Ask it to avoid, we've had clients ask us to avoid conjunctions. All right, we'll avoid conjunctions. That's fine. Tell it to avoid conjunctions. It might throw a few in there, but it's better to have two that we have to take out than have to avoid writing it for like 1,000 words. So be specific. ChatGPT, just because it doesn't have a lot of access to the internet, doesn't mean that it can't find out some sort of information off of what you're asking it from way back when and apply it now. So be specific and ask it exactly what you want. I'm also going to add to this to, yes, break down instructions into smaller steps, but the more information you give it, the better. So if you can give it like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 sentences in your prompt, really breaking down what you want it to do, the output is going to be so much stronger than if you ask it to write me a blog. It's going to be so much stronger because it's going to have more information to go off. It's going to have more patterns that it can pick up and give back to you. Okay. And just insert cliche concluding phrase here because that's what we were talking about. AI writing evolved seemingly fast, but has actually been around for years. So if you think that it just popped up out of nowhere, it didn't. So never fear, we have time to learn this system. We don't have to worry about it too much. The best way to beat the evolution of programs like ChatGPT is to understand as much as you can about it. So I would use it like crazy. I use it for everything. I use it to figure out if there are any vegan restaurants in my area, to ask it to plan my vacations, which it did a pretty good job with North Carolina. I ask it to do everything just so I can figure out every corner that it has. And then machines run on formulas, meaning there will always be gaps. Humans are inherently flawed and we miss things. So if the creators of OpenAI, they are humans creating these formulas. So there are going to be gaps. There are going to be things that they didn't think of yet, right? And so the best way to use this tool is to find the gaps, right? Find that it picks up patterns. So it's not going to get everything 100% of the time. It's going to get 50% of the time. Figure out that it doesn't give conclusive evidence. If you have 5 top level sentences in a row, it was probably AI generated. Find those gaps, learn how to fill them, teach people how to fill them, and the need for human intervention will not go anywhere. Okay. And that's the end of the presentation. I put my email here in case anybody did have any questions or wanted me to run by or had anything that we didn't have time to go over today. But the next part is actually going to be about how I taught my writers how to use it, and any kind of feedback I got, and then how you guys can bring it into the classroom. So I know, like I said, I know we're strapped for time, but does anybody have any questions or comments they wanted to bring to me?
Can I ask one? Yes, I was teaching on Monday night and raised the question of how we were going to handle AI in the classroom. It's a professional MBA, professional development class. And I'll skip, some of the students came by at the end of the class and said, thank you for being open-minded about AI, because I want them to use it. Now, one of the students had an interesting reservation. He's a mature student, and he said, to what extent will this gradually begin to undermine my creativity and my writing ability, my ability to do it, separate from machine aid? I want to use a powerful machine to help me, but I don't want it to diminish my own creativity and my own writing ability. What can I tell him to reassure him?
So the biggest question I got from my writers when I started implementing this into our processes was, is my job safe? Like, can this do exactly what I'm doing? And I would tell them no every time, because the time you save generating this base information, you should put into other strategies. So that was one of the things that we did. So in our writing, because the actual generation of the content is taking maybe half the time, now we're looking up ways that we know it worked. We're doing group studies. We're reaching out to other people in the company to see if they felt a certain emotion from it. We're looking at traffic and seeing if people actually looked at our writing and if they got to the end of the page. We are using so many more strategies to make our writing more valuable because we have the time to make it more valuable. So if they are looking for any way to beat AI and be better than AI, I would say that the best way to make yourself invaluable in the age of AI is to find what it can't do and do it. find different strategies that you can implement into your routine that makes you a more valuable professional, that other people aren't going to think of doing. Pass out your pages around, put it through different scanners, right? See if there are some sort of like image transcriptions you can add in there. Ask for like emotional input. That's one thing that my team does all the time. They'll put it into a team chat and say, hey guys, how did this make you feel? And everyone's like, I don't know. It made me feel, I don't know. I guess it made me feel like I can do this. And we're like, that's what we wanted. All right, great. Something worked here, right? So I would say to replace the time that you're saving with other strategies that make yourself invaluable. Does that answer your question? Does that
Yes,
help?
great. Thank you very
Cool.
much. And thank you for a great presentation with all that practical hands-on stuff. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's terrific advice, Karina. I appreciate that. And I think the Harvard document, the Google Doc that I posted the link for, will give you some great ideas about how to get students interacting with AI, but also using critical thinking skills and the writing skills. So you might want to take a look at that, and I think that'll give you some ideas. And Karina, we did have a question in the chat as to whether you'd be willing to share your slides. We could post those on our website. We can put them in a PDF, and if that'd be okay with you.
Yeah.
Great. And I really want to thank you for today. This was a very informative webinar, and it was worth waiting for. I'm sorry about the snafu with the time. And let me say, I'm echoing, Carrie. I don't know why I'm echoing. Let me just say to all the participants, thank you for being here today. We hope you learned something about the challenges and benefits and practical applications of AI. Part two, as noted, will be on October 5th at 2:30. And we'll focus on strategies that will be useful in writing-intensive classrooms. We'll also allow a bit of time for sharing of strategies and activities that we're doing in our classes. And don't forget, in 2 weeks, the Center for Research is hosting a webinar on powerful AI research tool called Elicit. That'll be on the 28th, September 28th at noon. And if you haven't already, I'd like to ask you to fill out the survey from today. What did it work for you? How helpful or useful was this webinar? Your feedback is always appreciated and helpful for us keeping our program strong. And the last thing, remember to check out this video and more on our YouTube channel as well as on our webpage of our website. And that's it. Thank you for coming today. And again, thank you for such an awesome presentation. Oops, you're muted there, Karina.
Well, I just said thank you very much. I'm so happy I could be here. You guys have a wonderful week.